right, rookie mistake number 6 is definitely something I had to learn the hard way on more than one occasion, and that is hola, hola mi gente, ¿qué pasa? Y bienvenidos de nuevo a mi canal. If you're new here, what is up? My name is Ariana. I am a digital nomad documenting my journey as I travel around the world. Today I want to talk about some travel rookie mistakes. Some mistakes that I have made while traveling and I have learned from so that you don't have to. I'm going to share those with you today and give you some tips on how you can avoid those in your travels and not have to learn it the hard way. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. A travel rookie mistake number 1 would be carrying your passport with you at all times. Now, hear me out. You obviously need your passport to get to other destinations, obviously going through immigration and getting into different countries and things. But once you get settled in that country, ideally you would want to put your passport in a safe place, whether it's in a lockbox in your hotel room or locking it up in your suitcase in your Airbnb. But you don't want to carry it around with you as you travel around the country. That is a huge rookie mistake, because if anything happens, you might be stuck in that country. All jokes aside, you can probably go to the embassy and get a new one, but who wants to go through the hassle of doing all of that? So instead of carrying your passport around with you, it's a good idea to just take a picture of your passport. And with this picture, you want to make sure that it's a good, clear picture. It's in good lighting. You can read all the details and information on it. That way, if you ever do need to show identification while you're traveling around the place, you have something handy that's on your phone, easily accessible, while at the same time not being your actual passport or anything you have to worry about losing. Travel rookie mistake number 2. This one really depends on where you go to. I think it varies by different countries, but not packing a washcloth. I know, it sounds so weird, but it's a thing. For us Americans, I think we are accustomed to washing with a rag or having something to wash our bodies down. But it is not a cultural norm in certain places. I know I've traveled to Spain, I think was one of the first places I traveled to, and I traveled with a travel group, and so there were some people in the group that were complaining like there weren't washcloths, and they're like, what is this? It's so weird. So know that that's not a cultural norm everywhere, and it's a good idea to just pack one. I mean, it doesn't take up much space. It's something small. Or if you forget to pack one, you can always just go to like a local grocery store or a store somewhere and just buy a little rag if you need to. But that's just a good thing to note, that it is not a cultural norm that washcloths are everywhere. So if you want that, be sure to pack one. All right, rookie mistake numero 3. This is not learning the basics of the language. Now, this is one that I kind of struggle with myself, because I have been to places where I've tried to learn the basics and it's been a little rough. I know in Thailand specifically, like Thai was not my strength. I struggled with some of the words. But I think when it comes to that, it's the effort, right? So you may not be pronouncing things absolutely right, but it's just showing the locals that you're trying, showing that you're trying to communicate. It goes a long way, trust. Also, it's good to just know some of the basics of the language just so you can navigate and be able to communicate in this new place that you're in, and it helps to just break down some communication barriers. You can always use Google Translate, yes, but sometimes in the heat of the moment, it's just best to be able to say little things like thank you, or good morning, or help, please, or bathroom, you know, just little tiny words that can get you very far in certain situations. So don't make that mistake. Learn a few basics of the language if you can before traveling to a new place. Rookie mistake number 4 is exchanging dollars for cash. Now, hear me out. I do think back in the day, this was a common way to prepare to travel somewhere internationally. You would go to your bank and either exchange your money there and get the currency that you would need for the destination you were traveling to, or you would figure out how much money you would need for your trip, get that out in actual dollars, and then when you got to the place, you would go to a currency exchange counter and give them the dollars for the currency that they have there. Nowadays, I don't think that's necessary, and I actually would advise against that, because you're putting yourself in a situation where you have cash on hand, making yourself more accessible to getting robbed or maybe even losing the money, both of which would really suck. So my advice would be to get an international debit card. Two banks that I actually use both of these and would recommend would be Charles Schwab or Wise. Charles Schwab is really great because they reimburse all ATM fees and any international transaction fees. Wise doesn't do that, but they do allow you to hold money in different currencies, which is also really cool. So instead of getting cash out, either before you go on your trip or even when you get there, like don't go to the currency exchange places. Like 9 times out of 10, you're not getting the best exchange rate. And like I said, you're traveling with money on you, which isn't always the best idea. So it's a good idea when you land at your destination and you see ATMs at the airport, take your debit card, your international debit card, put it in, get out enough cash to get you, through however much cash you feel comfortable carrying on you, you can get that out. Usually for me, I just like to get out enough to cover maybe like a taxi ride and maybe like my first day or so in a new place, so I can fill out whether or not cash is even necessary. Because nowadays, a lot of places that you travel to, you don't really need cash like that. A lot of people take card. So I like to just get out enough to get me from the airport to wherever I'm going and kind of cover me for like a day or two so I can fill things out. But yeah, it's as easy as having an international debit card, getting the money straight out of the ATM and taking it from there. Like, it saves the hassle of trying to figure out how much money you think you'll need in advance, having to carry cash around with you, and risking losing it, which is like the worst feeling in the world, to like lose your own money. Another thing to note too is that when you pull money out of the ATM, like I said, you get charged a transaction fee. So with Charles Schwab, you don't really have to worry about it. They reimburse all those fees at the end of the month, any transaction fees that you have come through. Since Wise doesn't do that, it may be a good idea to look and do some research ahead of time into what ATMs you could use that maybe don't have as high of fees. That way you're getting the best bang for your buck. And speaking of ATMs, that brings me to rookie mistake number 5, which is accepting the exchange rate that they offer you at the ATM. Don't do it. Just don't do it. The short answer to this is don't do it. And that is because you're not getting the best exchange rate. So essentially, when you go to pull money out, before you finish your transaction, they will ask you, would you like to accept the exchange rate in your currency, in USD if you're American, or would you like to accept it in the local currency? Always pick the local currency. So you can see it's asking, do you want to pay in your home currency or the local currency? In this case, since I'm in Colombia, it's in COP or Colombian pesos. You always, always, always want to pick continue without conversion. You want to pay in the local currency, and I'll tell you why. So you can see up here that $1 is equivalent to 3 Colombian pesos, at least at this ATM. But the current conversion rate for COP to 1 USD is 4 Colombian pesos to $1. So by accepting this conversion that the bank wants to give you, or this ATM wants to give you, you are already getting gypped out of 1 Colombian peso for every dollar. Additionally, you can see that it also includes a markup fee, and it's not cheap, 7.5%. So pay attention to that when you are pulling money out of the ATM. A lot of times, I don't know if this is a staple everywhere, but more often than not, you want to click what's on the left. Like usually on the left, the button on the left is in the local currency. And then the one on the right is usually in your home currency. But yes, you want to choose the local currency because it gives you the best rate, the best exchange rate, and is probably closer to what you will see in the currency exchange app that you can download. Because usually the ATM conversion rate is inflated so that they can get some coins out of it too. Rookie mistake number 6 is definitely something I had to learn the hard way on more than one occasion, and that is not checking the local holidays. This can be more of an annoyance than anything for someone who's traveling as a digital nomad like myself, because usually I'm in a place for, at least weeks or months at a time. But if you're going somewhere on vacation and you just happen to hit a holiday where everything is shut down, like all the attractions and excursions you want to do, they're closed because people are out on holidays, it can suck. It can be such a pain in the butt. So if you're planning a trip to a destination, be sure to look up what the local holidays are there just to make sure that your trip does not overlap with anything going on. especially if it's a super long holiday. Like here in Istanbul, they had a holiday that lasted like almost 2 weeks. And it wasn't that everything was shut down, you know, I could still like get groceries and things like that. But for the most part, a lot of the locals were out of town. It was a very like mellow, chill zone for multiple days. So you want to make sure that your trip doesn't end up overlapping with something like that, where you thought you were going to be doing all these things and it turns out like it's a ghost town. Travel rookie mistake number 7, not utilizing Facebook groups. Now, Facebook isn't, I wouldn't say it's my go-to social media platform, but when it comes to groups, yeah, that's where I'm going. Anytime I'm going to a new destination, I'm always popping into the Facebook search, looking for different travel groups, other solo female travelers who have visited the place that I'm going, other digital nomads or expats who live in the country that I'm interested in. It's just a really good way to get a lot of information about the place where you're going and find stuff out before you get there. Get a lot of good tips, different recommendations, and it's also a great way to connect with people. I've met a few people through Facebook travel groups who happened to be going to the same place that I was going at the same time, and we ended up connecting on Facebook, but then connecting in real life, and it turned out to be like just like a great meetup. So I definitely recommend utilizing Facebook to your advantage when you are traveling. Check out those Facebook groups. There are a ton, several different ones. Really a ton. I can't even think of any at the moment, but I'll link a few in the description box below so that you can check those out. Rookie mistake number 8, not having a portable charger. This is so crucial, especially as a solo female traveler, really as a solo traveler in general. It is never a fun time to be out somewhere and not have a charged phone, especially if you are in an area that you are unfamiliar with, on top of being in a foreign country. So you want to make sure you have a portable charger, and a charged portable charger at that. It's no use of having a portable charger if it's just as dead as your phone. But this is for obvious reasons, for safety, for just practical reasons. You need to have your phone in order to communicate with people, to have your GPS, you know, just the logical things. But especially as a solo traveler, you want to make sure that you have that on hand, because it really is like a lifeline for you when you're out and about traveling on your own. Rookie mistake number 9, not having a VPN. So VPN stands for Virtual Private Network, and essentially it offers you a protected or private network while you are surfing the internet. So anytime you are using free Wi-Fi, honestly, anytime you're using any type of Wi-Fi that's not your own personal home Wi-Fi, you want to have on a VPN to protect your data and protect yourself while you are surfing the web. A VPN is also really useful to have because you can adjust where your location is online. So for example, me being here in Turkey, there are certain websites I've come across that will not let me access them if my VPN is set to the United States. And likewise with the United States, they'll have blockers set up for certain sites if my VPN is set to Turkey, or if I don't have my VPN on at all, because I am tapped into Turkish networks and the US can pick up on that, they are blocking me from accessing certain sites. So with a VPN, I can just adjust where I need to be for whatever site I'm trying to access, and then I can have access to that website. So that's really helpful, especially if you have certain things like, let's say your bank, for example, has a certain protection and doesn't allow foreign networks to access those websites. It's good to be able to change that so that you can access your bank account. And it also comes in handy if you are into TV shows and, you know, something you really want to watch is on Netflix. You're going to need your VPN in order to change the network that you're tapped in from. So a VPN is a good thing to have. Personally, I use NordVPN. I've also used Surfshark in the past. So those are two that you can look into and check out if you are interested in getting one. All right, travel rookie mistake number 10 is not having travel insurance. Now, I think this is one that a lot of people don't think about or don't like to think about, because I mean, who wants to go on a trip thinking that something bad might happen, you know? But in this case, it is better to be safe than sorry, for sure. Having travel insurance obviously protects you from any accidents that might happen while you are traveling. So if you get sick, if you get injured, the costs associated with that are covered. Personally, I use Safety Wing as my travel medical insurance, and so they cover, getting sick, getting injured, having to go to the hospital. They also cover things like your luggage getting lost, if you need to evacuate for any reason, if you have an extended travel delay that is over 12 hours and getting food and accommodation in that time for that delay. And this coverage that they provide is in a huge range of countries. Like, it is specifically designed for nomads. So no matter where I am traveling around the world, I am most likely covered. Another benefit of Safety Wing is that they offer flexible dates. So if you are only traveling for, let's say, a week or 2 weeks, you can set up your insurance to only cover you for those 1 to 2 weeks. And it's not necessary to buy an entire travel medical insurance plan for the whole year that you don't really need. So I like the flexibility that comes with it. I like that the coverage is with me no matter where that I go. And most recently, they have released add-ons that you can have with your insurance coverage. And these add-ons are things that cover you for adventure sports. So if you really like to do those adventurous excursions, all the hiking and the skiing and all the things that could possibly lead to an injury, they cover that now as well. You can add that on to your insurance. Another add-on that they have is for the theft of electronics. So if you have a computer or an iPad or a camera, for example, and unfortunately it gets stolen, if you have this add-on through your Safety Wing insurance plan, it will be covered and they will reimburse you for the cost of your devices. So I think that is amazing. As a digital nomad, that is definitely something that's top of mind for me and something that I want to make sure that I'm covered for wherever I'm traveling, because it is not cheap getting those type of things replaced. So if you have never considered getting insurance before traveling, I highly recommend that you do, because again, it's so much better to be safe than sorry, and to just have that peace of mind to know that you are covered no matter what happens. I highly recommend checking out Safety Wing. If you're interested, look in the description box below. I will add my link where you can go and check out the type of coverage plans that they offer. Rookie mistake number 11. Not accounting for travel exhaustion in your trip itinerary. Travel exhaustion is real, y'all. Like, I've talked about this before in some of my other videos. There have been trips where I am just traveling. I have a flight that is maybe an hour, 2 hours max. But by the time I get to my destination, I am exhausted and I don't want to do anything for the rest of that day. And it happens. Like, you think about the flight to get there, but you also have to factor in just everything that happens between leaving where you are and getting to that destination. There's carrying your luggage, there's catching transportation to and from the airport, there's navigating the airport and all the things that come with just checking your bags and making sure you're at your gate on time and making sure your suitcase isn't too heavy. And it's a lot. And if it isn't physically exhausting, it definitely is mentally draining. So it's always a good idea when you are planning out your trip to include some downtime in your itinerary. Even if it's not necessarily as soon as you arrive, taking a nap. Maybe it's not taking a nap, but maybe that first day that you get there, it's just a day to relax. It's just a day to kind of ease in, and you're not doing, all the excursions, getting up at 6 a.m. the next day and just on the go. Because having a trip like that can leave you more exhausted than actually enjoying the place that you're in. Having time for rest and relaxation and to rejuvenate so that you can really enjoy your trip is something that I value very much, and it's something that I always make sure to include in all the trip itineraries that I make. If you're interested in checking them out, again, the description box below has all that you need, but also you can check it out yourself at shopthewanderbox.com. There you'll find in a range of different trip itineraries that I have made specifically for solo travelers. and it has that rest time built in, so you can have rest and relaxation after traveling in for your trip and even between excursion days. These trip itineraries that I've created are things that I've done myself. So like, I recommend things that I know are fun and enjoyable, but at the same time, since I've done them, I also know how exhausting and draining they can be. So I make sure to plan out itineraries that have balance. So if you're doing something high energy one day, the next day you might be doing something just as fun, but it doesn't require as much energy, or it doesn't have you waking up at the crack of dawn. So be sure to check those out, especially if you're interested in traveling solo. Not only does it come with trip itineraries, it has a lot of helpful information on how to navigate the country or the destination that you're going to, as well as some fun things like solo travel challenges and just different tips, and also links and sometimes discounts on accommodations and different things. So check that out in the description box below, shopthewanderbox.com. Travel rookie mistake number 12, my last and final one, is not being prepared with the right data package. It's hard for me to figure out how to word this because it all depends on what data plan or what cell phone plan that you have. But the best way that I can describe this is when you get to a destination and you are surprised that your phone either does not work or it works really slow. So I think it's important to always just kind of set expectations before you go. Now, I've talked a little bit about this in a different video, which I will go ahead and link above one of these one of these sides or down below. But essentially, when you're traveling, you're going to need access to data. If you're leaving the US, sometimes you can do this if you have a cell phone plan. You can just add on a package and pay per day in order to have an international plan. This will give you data that you can use from wherever it is that you're going. This is a convenient way to do it, but often usually the most expensive way to do it. So an alternative route would be to either get an eSIM, which is basically a digital SIM card that you can install on your phone through an app such as Airlo, or you can get a physical SIM card, which you can buy at a local grocery store or convenience store, plop it into your phone, and you will have access to the network that way. The thing about the physical SIM cards though is if you have a phone that is older, I think, than the iPhone 12, don't quote me on that, I have an 11. Anything older than 11 for sure, you cannot use a physical SIM card because they took that slot away, which is part of the reason why I won't upgrade my phone. But yeah, so your route will only be to use the eSIM, which you can download, like I said, from Airlo. If you want $3 off of your first one, I will be sure to drop that link down below and you can use that. So check that out. But essentially, when you go to a new country, they all have their own towers, right? You have towers in the US that we use that you can bounce, your phone bounces data off of that and it talks to that and it communicates with that, and that's how you have access to data, and you can use things like your apps, and you can call people and text and all that stuff. And then you have other countries that have their own towers, and so your phone is using those towers to communicate and bounce stuff off of as well. That's how the process works. So if you're with a US based phone company and you are traveling to another place that has its own towers, yes, they can provide you the coverage. Like, let's use T-Mobile for example. T-Mobile can provide you the coverage, but it's not going to be as strong of a connection as it would be if you were back in the States and you're bouncing off of the towers that your phone plan is normally connected with. You're bouncing off of different towers. Maybe the signal takes a while. I don't know the technology, like the full logistics behind how it works, but just know that your data is going to work slower. It's not going to work as fast as it would if you had like an eSIM through Airlo. I normally, when I travel places, because I do not have a US based phone plan anymore, I will use Airlo for maybe the first few days or weeks, depending on how much the SIM card cost, and use that because, again, Airlo offers coverage. It's not going to be the fastest though. The best bet and the fastest way for your data to work is by using a local SIM card. That's just going to give you the best service. And it makes sense, right? Because the towers, local SIM card, they talk together, they go together, they match. So getting a local SIM card will give you the fastest data. If you get somewhere and you're discovering that even though you paid to have coverage for your data in whatever destination you're traveling to, but you find that it's really slow, like your Google Maps is lagging, or like sometimes your signal is not like fully connecting, it's probably because you're using a plan through the US based plan. And if you want to kind of speed up your data or just ensure that you always can use your phone without any lag or problems, it's probably best to get an eSIM. And you can get these temporarily, like you don't have to buy a whole bunch of data. You can buy like one gigabyte packages, or 3 or 5. Like they have different options, and they're for different periods of time. So I would advise for you to look into that or consider that. If you go somewhere and you have a US based plan and you just added on a package to have international coverage, but you find that your coverage or your data is moving really slowly, consider getting an eSIM, even if it's something that you just use temporarily, so that you can have reliable and faster service. The great thing about eSIMs is, again, since it's digital, you can actually have both turned on at the same time. So like you can have your T-Mobile data connection turned on as well as the eSIM. And if you find that one is being slow, you can maybe cut off the T-Mobile, do what you need to do if it's, you know, using maps to get somewhere or communicating with someone, and then you can turn it back on and turn the eSIM off if you'd like. It does have the ability to switch back and forth, and that's an option as well. But I share that because there have been times when I have traveled or met up with other people who have complained about their data being slow, and when I ask them more often than not who their provider is, they're usually still with a US provider of some sort, and that's 9 times out of 10 why they're probably having a lag with their connection. So be sure to consider that in your travels, even if you just wanted to get 1 gig, kind of test it out, or even when you get there you're just finding that it's slow, you can buy the eSIM at any time. And like I said, you don't have to buy like a full-on plan. You can just buy one for a short duration or whatever period of time that you need, in order to just make sure that as you're traveling, especially as you're traveling solo, that you have the best and strongest connection and don't have to deal with lagging data. All right, so that is all the travel rookie mistakes that I had to share with you all today. If you all can think of some that I forgot to include, or some that you have experienced yourself, share with us down in the comments below. Please let us know so we don't have to learn the hard way. And thank you guys so much for watching this video all the way to the end. Be sure to check out that description box for all those goodies that I mentioned, and I will see you guys in the next video. Ciao.